Heaven of freedom, my father, I let my country away. Think about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vijay Singha. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've had the wonderful opportunity of introducing our next speaker at many a prestigious function, and this is yet another opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, he counts over 15 years' experience in the industry, having held senior marketing management positions in 3 leading companies in Sri Lanka. He thereafter joined the academia and read for the doctoral program at the Postgraduate Institute of Management, PIM, of the University of Sri Jayewardenepura, where he has been the senior faculty member for marketing over the past 15 years. He is now the director of PIM and the chairman of the Institute's Board of Management. He has published many articles on branding and strategic marketing in leading journals, both here and overseas, and addressed numerous local and international conferences. He also holds an MBA and is a chartered marketer and a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing. He is a marketing consultant to a number of leading local companies and international agencies and a developer of senior managers. He's on the boards of directors of a number of leading companies in Sri Lanka and a member of the Board of Study of Institute of Chartered Accountants, Sri Lanka, and the National Institute of Business Management, NIBM. He's a member of the standing committees on staff development, management studies, and postgraduate studies and research of the University Grants Commission, and a member of the Presidential Task Force on National Productivity Improvement in Sri Lanka. He was the chairman of the CIM Sri Lanka region and a member of the International Board of CIM. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, his work has been recognized overseas. In the year 2009 alone, his models on the value pyramid and strategy quadrant have been featured in a number of journals. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure in inviting our guest of honor this evening, Professor Udita Liyanage, Director, Postgraduate Institute of Management, to address you all.
I do recognize the fact that I'm standing between you and cocktails. And I've decided to half my speech this evening, much to your delight, I believe. Professor Lakshman Watawala, Dr. Gamini Vijay Singha, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. Professor Watawala asked me to speak on the importance of management. And I think when he did make the request, he had you in mind, the past finalists in particular. So let me take 10 to 12 minutes to share some thoughts that I have on the subject of management. There have been many management concepts and theories and principles and frameworks that have been developed from time to time. They become popular. Many books are written about them. Many seminars are held around them. And then, after a couple of years, we see them fizzling out. They lose their currency. They're no longer popular. We had business process reengineering, very popular in the mid-1980s. We had benchmarking, a very popular theme in the early 1990s. We had balanced scorecards. We had good to great principles. And many of these management gurus, I'm sure, made a lot of money writing books and holding seminars about them. But we don't see them being discussed today. So about 2 years ago, I asked myself the question, why is it that these oft-quoted, oft-talked about management principles and frameworks haven't stood the test of time? And the answer that I got to this loaded question is that some of these principles that have been introduced and popularized are not in fact rooted in human behavior. They're complex sometimes. And then I developed 8 GMPs. GMP stand for Great Management Principles. They're very simple. They will certainly stand the test of time, and they have. And if managers ignore the GMPs, they do so at their own peril. So let me very quickly take you through 4 of those GMPs, the great management principles, which are very simple, which are rooted in our very nature, in our human nature. And also, there's another interesting point. When you have complex theories, they don't work in today's environment. In today's VUCA world, something that I picked up last evening, we live in a VUCA world, and complex theories don't work. We need simple theories to understand complex realities. What is this VUCA world that we live in? Our present marketplace, the global marketplace, is characterized by 4 key principles. VUCA. V stands for volatility. U stands for uncertainty. C stands for complexity. And A stands for ambiguity. No longer do we have the luxury of operating in simple, stable environments. Our environments are complex. They keep changing. They're in a constant state of flux. And if we don't see simple realities, then we lose the plot. And therefore, again, I am underscoring the importance of looking at reality simply and putting your finger on great management principles. Here's the first one. GMP 1, and this is my mantra. You get what you see. You get what you see. Now this little principle, I like to call it a GMP, Great Management Principle, is based on one of my favorite frameworks. I want you to visualize 3 basic elements. There are things that we do in organizations, in life, at play. The many activities that we carry out, the many programs we run, the things we do. Now, as reasonable, intelligent human beings, why do we do the things we do? Not for their own sake, but we have certain results in mind. We do what we do in order to get certain results that we have in mind. Now, when we fall short of the results that we desire to achieve, what do we do as reasonable human beings? We revisit what we did. We ask the question, what went wrong? Where did it go wrong? We do variance analysis. And the past finalists, I'm sure, know this. And then we redo what we did. And this time around, expecting better results. And ladies and gentlemen, more often than not, we do achieve better results. So our life is a journey from do to get and get to do. And that's how the pendulum swings. Now, very rarely do we achieve breakthrough results. We achieve incremental results. Now, I would submit that we do not achieve breakthrough results because we gloss over the fact that there's a third vital element in this framework. We have do here, we have get here. What is up there? And that is C, S-E-E. We don't look at that. We don't focus on that. Okay? Because if you don't see it right, ladies and gentlemen, you don't do it right. And if you don't do it right, you don't get it right. That's the simple sequence. Let me illustrate this with a very interesting bit of research done about a year and a half ago by Gallup International. Gallup is a research agency. They conduct many surveys other than election polls. And Gallup had this survey done about, as I said, a year and a half ago. They had 12,000 managers from different countries and different industries. And they grouped these 12,000 managers into 2 categories. Category 1, managers who came from average to mediocre companies, poor performing companies. So these managers represented the mediocre companies. The second category of managers of this 12,000 total number came from high-performing companies, excellent companies. You got it? Two groups. And Gallup asked three very simple questions from these 12,000 respondents, now put into two groups. And let me tell you the first question that Gallup asked these respondents. Gallup asked the 12,000 respondents to imagine that they were sales managers in their organizations. So they were asked to imagine that they were sales managers in their organizations. And this was the question that was posed. You are sales managers, and you got to make a hiring decision. You have a short list of two candidates, two sales representatives. And here's the profile of the first guy. Integrity beyond question, nice, personable guy. He will fit into your team from day one, and he will carry on in the organization. And this sales guy will bring a 40,000 US dollars a month in terms of sales revenue. Got it? You got the profile of the guy, and you got the estimated sales revenue that he will generate. Here's the profile of the second guy. An independent thinker. He might question the status quo. He may not fit into the team from day one, but he's honest. And the second guy is likely to produce a 55,000 US dollars a month. First guy 40,000, second guy 55,000. Two different profiles though. And the question is very simple. Which one will you hire? Now, interestingly, all the great managers, the managers who came from excellent companies, had one answer to this question. A statistically significant number of people from group one had one answer. And a statistically significant number from the second group had a very different answer. What do you think the great managers said? What was their pick? All the great managers said, this is no-brainer. You don't have to even think about it. We will go for guy number 2. In fact, they went so far as to say that it is my job as the sales manager to ensure that he becomes a team player. And that is my role. Now, this is my simple point, ladies and gentlemen. This question had nothing to do with performance. This question had nothing to do with doing. It is all about the way you perceived reality, your worldview, your mindset. And I would posit that the first set of managers will behave very differently in the way they would manage the salesperson, in the way in which they would manage the whole sales management function. So the point I'm making is that if you don't see it right, you don't do it right. And if you don't do it right, you don't get it right. There's a great deal of emphasis on skill development. SD is the name of the game of HR. It's all about developing skills, sharpening skills of people. But there's very little attention paid to PM, to perception management, managing the worldview of people, shaping perceptions of your employees. In fact, there's a new equation now, knowledge, attitude, and skills, the three factors that people talk about. And now they're talking about KSAM. K for knowledge, S for skills, A for attitude, and M for what? Mindset. So increasingly, the gurus are making a distinction between attitude and mindset. And I'm talking about mindset, how you see things. So therefore, my first GMP is you get what you see. I'm in fact not going to describe 4. I'm going to cut it short and deal with only 2 more very quickly. The second GMP is you get what you focus. The first one is you get what you see. The second one is you get what you focus. And here again is a fundamental management principle. There is a basic difference between two words: problems and opportunities. And this must be clearly recognized. It was Peter Drucker, the management guru, way back in 1970s, who made this distinction very clear. Drucker said, you might solve the biggest problem under the sun, and you achieve only one thing. What is that? You get back to zero. You just get back to zero. What is the problem by definition? Here you are. This is your market share of 10%. This is the morale of your employee. What is the problem? You come below. Minus. Now you fix this problem. Use the best management techniques. You put all your resources behind those techniques, and you fix the problem. What do you achieve at best in solving the problem? You come back to zero. And that's all you achieve through problem resolution. So what do you focus on as managers? Yes, you've got to put out fires. Yes, you've got to resolve problems. But that is good, but not good enough. You've got to focus on opportunities. And what are opportunities? You're here, ground zero, and you see an opportunity. And you create value. You move forward, not by solving problems, because you come back to zero by doing that. You go forward only, let me repeat, only by sensing and seizing opportunities in the marketplace and within the organization. And this is a fundamental point. I cannot help but relate this fundamental concept to Stephen Covey's framework of what is important and what is urgent. A beautiful, simple classification which runs to the heart of management. It's a fundamental distinction between what is important and what is urgent. And what is not urgent does not pose a problem now. Did you get that? What is urgent does not pose a problem now. So managers must know there's no problem. We are doing okay. We are at zero level. This is our market share. This is the morale of our employees. But if you want to go beyond, if you want to take the organization forward, then you've got to focus on what is important, which may not be urgent. So therefore, the second principle is focus on opportunities and not just solve problems. And again, survey after survey suggests that managers across countries, across industries, are firefighters in a sense. They are maintenance engineers. They don't wear the hat of the architect who create value. And if you don't have an organization of people who sense opportunities, and that's an art of sensing opportunities, and then developing strategies to seize and exploit those opportunities, you're not going to move forward. And here's my last GMP. You get what you reward. And this principle goes back, I think, to about 5 million years. Our brains are hardwired to respond to reward and punishment. And management can only make use of these years of conditioning to get people to tick and to work. Michael Leboff wrote a fantastic book way back in the early 1990s, a small booklet, in fact. And he called this the GMP. He called this the greatest management principle. I think that's a bit of an overkill. It's a great management principle. I would like to use a superlative there. And Leboff's GMP is that you get what you reward. And Leboff starts his book with a very interesting story, which I'm going to relate and conclude my brief presentation. Leboff talks about a man who goes fishing on a Sunday morning in his boat. He wants to relax, he wants to take it easy on a Sunday morning. And then he sees a river snake, Vienna, about to swallow a frog. Now, this man feels sorry for the frog, so he moves up, takes a stick, and takes the frog off the mouth of the snake. The frog runs away, and the man is very happy. He sits back and says, what a wonderful morning. Good start, great start, a meritorious start. And then he says, my gosh, what about the snake? I deprived the snake of its food, of its prey. So then he looks for some food in the boat. He does not find any food, but he does find a bottle of Scotch whiskey. that he brought along with him. So he opens a bottle of Scotch whiskey and gives the snake a few shots, as it were, and the snake imbibes the stuff, and the snake moves away. And then he sits back and says, "Brilliant morning. Saved the life of the frog, fed the snake, and let me enjoy the rest of the morning." 5 minutes lapse, and he hears somebody knocking on the board. The snake is back. The snake is back with 2 frogs in its mouth. I hope you got the moral of the story. The snake is saying, "I loved your Scotch whiskey. Give me more Scotch whiskey, I'll bring you more frogs." Now, I think this relates to a fundamental principle, and this is the mantra. As managers, you've got to first figure out the results that you want to achieve. It all begins with a clear definition of the results that you want to achieve. And then, you've got to clearly identify the behaviors that would produce those results and establish a close nexus, a connection between the two. What are these 2 things? Students, what are these 2 things? Results, behaviors. Because if you reward the wrong behaviors, you get the wrong results, as this man got. And then what is the third element? Rewards. So the equation is results, behaviors, and those rewards that would promote those behaviors in order to achieve those results. So I described 3 management principles, great management principles. Whether an accountant, a marketer, or operations guy, you have to manage 3 things. You have to manage the task at hand. You have to manage the people around you. And you have to manage the context in which you operate. And these principles cut across all 3 factors of task, people, and context. You get what you see, you get what you focus, and you get what you reward. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Professor, for sharing your words of wisdom, your vast experience, and giving us yet another thought-provoking address. I'm sure we can put our hands together for Professor Udipali. But once again, we move on to the presentation of awards to first our founder members. Can I please invite Dr. PCB Vijay Singha? So can we have you to move forward? Also, Mr. G.D.P.G. Amar Singha. Appreciate we have the applause moving to all these gentlemen. Mr. H.E. Amalsekara. Also Mr. S.R. Balachandran. Also Mrs. S. Balachandran. You as well, Mr. B.P.M. Bopagamage. Mr. E.V.R. Pasichetti. Mr. E.P.A. Kure. Mr. L.J.N. Gunaratna. Ms. K.A.K.P. Gunavardhana. Let's put our hands together for a round of applause, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Vijay Singh. I think we have a token of appreciation for you, a special token. This is our way of saying a big thank you for your presence here today. Thank you very much. And I now invite Mr. Jeevanandan to present the next few certificates to our founder members. They are Mr. S.T.A. Gunavardhana, Mr. H.M.C. Hera, Mr. B.A. Kulandarwa, Mr. K.N. Jala, Mr. J.M.M.G.U. Chasekara, Mr. A.D. Jasela, Mr. L.D.A. Jasingha, Mr. J.R.A.S. Javela, Mr. P.E.A. Javikrama, Mr. R. Niguliata, Mr. M.N.G.C. Pereira, Mr. S. Ranwata, Mr. L.J. Rivera, Mr. A.P.D. Sabaributtu, Mr. Eli S. Silva, Mr. S. Varnajyoti, Mr. S.C. Veerasurya, Mr. D.G. Vimalasuriya, I'm sure we can put our hands together for all the founder members. We now move on to the presentation of another set of certificates. At the meantime, let me say a big thank you to Mr. Jeevanandan. Thank you very much. I now have the pleasure of inviting our guest of honor, Mr. Puditalian again. This is where we recognize the founder, industrial advisory committee members. From Atkins Spence Group Limited, Mr. E.V.R. Kasichetti. Appa Brothers Limited, Mr. Kamini Vimalasuriya. From John Hughes Holdings PLC, Ms. Mayuri Silva. From Finco Limited, Mr. S.C. Veerasurya. From Richard Pearson Company, Mr. Jagat Disanarka. From Dip Products PLC, Mr. Ajit Kumar. From Guest International Limited, Mr. Susiri Pereira. From Sirinko Insurance PLC, Mr. Hakeem Yusuf. From People's Bank, Mr. Vasant Kumar. From United Motors Lakha Limited, Mr. Tushara Jayasekara. And from Tokyo Cement Company Lakha Limited, Mr. T. Naouz. We also have a certificate of appreciation to be presented to Mr. D. A. Chandrasiri from the Department of Examinations of Sri Lanka. I'm sure we can have a round.